Just a second. Let's have this. Cancel. Okay, let's just set the ball rolling. Okay, good. Let me just get a nice position. Okay, welcome to the channel. My name is Victor, and I'm going to be your uncle for this live. So for this live, we're going to be discussing a few things. We're going to be talking about becoming a data analyst. So if you want to become a data analyst, okay, just a moment. Let me switch off this light I have here. So if you want to become a data analyst, so what are the kind of things you're going to be looking at? If you want to become a data analyst, so what are you going to be looking at? So I'm going to be looking at about 10 things. I'm also going to also talk about, maybe I'm going to pick out one of those items. We're going to consider, if you want to become a data analyst, what do you need to do? Okay, welcome to the live. My name is Victor. I'm going to be looking at a few things. I've penned down a few items. I'm going to be discussing how do you become a data analyst. And as I become a data analyst, how do you turn that into become something that is very profitable? So if you want to be profitable, if you want to actually make an income from being a data analyst, so what do you need to do? So I have 10 items I'm going to be discussing. Now, before we go on, my name is Victor, and I'm going to be your anchor in this particular live session. And for the past 10, 15 years, I've been anchoring and training students, mentoring students, consulting for companies, doing freelance work that have to do with data analytics, data science, machine learning, and all of that. Now, first, I'm going to talk about who a data analyst is, then the role of a data analyst. Then I'm also going to now atomize all the different things you can do to become a data, or all the different kind of things you can do to earn cash as a data analyst. So the first thing is that, who is a data analyst? So a data analyst is going to be somebody that can actually look at data. He can look at data, he can look at maybe raw data, or he can come in at the point where the data is trying to be interpreted, or insights want to be made out of data. He can pick up that data, he can clean it, he can make sense out of it, he can now write a report, he can make dashboards out of those kind of reports. Now he can now tell people what kind of decisions they can make out of that data. That's the job of a data analyst. Take for instance, you work in healthcare, you work in tech, you work with NGOs. All you're going to be doing is, how do we make decisions? How can we make informed decisions? And the only way we can make informed decisions is by doing what? Picking up the appropriate data, interpreting this data, and so that we can make decisions. For a hospital, for instance, we want to know whether we should get more doctors, we want to know whether we should get more lab technicians, we want to know whether we should get more bed space. In terms of getting more bed space, what kind of bed space should we be getting? Should we be getting bed space for neonatal? Should we be getting bed space for, let's say, for maybe for women that wants to, that's for pediatrics ward? What kind of decisions can we make? That's the job of a data analyst, right? Now, if you work in tech, for instance, you have an e-commerce software, you have an e-commerce application. The question you're going to be asking yourself is that, how do you, the data for the e-commerce platform, how do you turn that data into the kind of data that is not going to make a hell lot of sense for you? You now want to use that particular data and make decisions for more sales. Those are the kind of things you're going to be doing as a data analyst. So what kind of tools are you going to be using? So it all depends on the kind of job you are doing. So the kind of job you're going to be doing as a data analyst is going to tell the kind of tool you're going to be using. For instance, my first degree is mathematics. Right from my mathematics days over 20 years ago, if you're doing mathematics, if you're doing statistics, if you're doing data, if you're doing machine learning, if you're doing all of this, even in this age of AI, where AI is now everywhere, the kind of job you're going to be doing is going to be is going to tell what kind of tools you are going to be using. Now you have so many tools as a data analyst, from SPSS to Excel to Power BI to Tableau to IBM to Cloud BigQuery, depending on whether you're doing your data analytics offline with your PC, whether you're doing that in the cloud, or you're using AI models or whatever. So there are quite a lot of tools that you can be using as a data analyst. So I have atomized 11 items. So the last one is going to be a bonus for the next 30-40 minutes. I've atomized some items that can become a guide for you if you want to start making money as a data analyst. So the very first one is going to be building dashboards for companies. Now, I'm going to give you 10 examples each of how you can translate this into cash, because one thing is about knowing what to do, then another thing is going to be how can I translate this into something that's going to be profitable for me. Take for instance, a data analyst should be able to do a dashboard. So what are the different kind of tools you can use to create a dashboard? Now you can see, if you want to create a dashboard, you can use Excel, you can use Tableau, you can use Power BI, you can use quite a lot of tools to build dashboard. Now, who is going to be the right audience for your dashboard? So it can be small businesses, it can be NGOs, it can be e-commerce store. Now, why do I need a dashboard? Now, a dashboard is just a combination of different kinds of charts that you now have in maybe a paginated format. Now, if I have a dashboard, it can tell a story in just one look. If I have a dashboard, it can tell a story in just one look. So I said you could use Power BI, you could use Tableau, you could use Looker Studio. Looker Studio is owned by Google. You can also use Excel. Now, let me give you 10 examples of dashboards that you can create. So you can have sales dashboard for supermarket, you can have HR turnover dashboard. At the end of this live, I'm going to put the entire description of everything we've discussed in the description of this video, so that you can actually go through them. So, but what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be explaining each and every one of those items. So you can have YouTube analytics dashboard, you could use real estate property dashboard. There was a time we did something for a real estate firm that had to do with them aggregating all of their cash inflow, all of the kind of things they are doing from their different businesses for the different estates, so that when they look at that particular dashboard, they cannot make informed decisions. You have manufacturing production dashboard, you have logistics fleet performance dashboard. Like you see, some of these transport companies, they have different cars. How do we know the drivers that are performing the most? How do we know the cash flow that's coming from each of the drivers? How do we know if we're making progress or not? So what a dashboard will typically do is to aggregate all the data. And the point is going to be, if you want to build a dashboard, how do you get the data? That's why if you check the channel, I have a playlist for data analyst that I talked about Excel, SPSS, Python. If you check one of those videos, I'll see if I can leave the link in the description of this live once I'm done. You're going to see that as a data analyst, one skill you want to be able to know how to use is how to generate data. Is how to generate data, because if you don't know how to generate data, it becomes very, very difficult for you to actually run your analysis. So you must be able to do what? You must be able to generate data. Your ability to generate data will tell if you're going to be successful or not. So you should be able to generate data. For a logistics company, for instance, you can pass out a questionnaire, you can have people fill forms, you can collect all of this data, and this data is now what's going to inform you creating your dashboard. What kind of KPIs do you want to see in your dashboard? For instance, you want to see things like the number of drivers that we have. You want to see things like how many passengers do we have. You want to see how many buses do we have. You want to know how many areas are we going to. You want to know the cash flow for each of the areas. You want to know how much profit are we making for each of those routes we are taking. So these are the kind of content or data you want to collect, you want to analyze, you want to now turn it into your dashboard. Okay, The next thing I'm going to talk about is, so I've talked about building dashboards. So if you want to start freelancing for small businesses, helping them make decisions, because most businesses might not know if they are doing well or not based on the what's it called, based on the data that they have. But the data that they have, the dashboard that they have, can tell a story about the business. Okay, so that's one. The next thing we're going to be looking at is offer data automation services. So what do I call data automation service? Now, I used to have a student that once trained with us some years ago. He learned Python and he didn't even finish the Python course. But one thing he learned was how to use Python and use Python libraries. Those Python libraries or Python libraries, what they will do is that they can help you do a lot of automation. So one of the things he said was that normally he would spend like a week or two to be able to prepare some kind of reports, but with Python you can automate all of those processes and you can do your reports almost within minutes. So at the end of the program, he said one of the things he could do was to be able to create automated scripts using Python. And in these days of AI, you can actually use Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok to like automate scripts. Let's say, for instance, you want to write a report based on an Excel sheet, or you want to write a report based on a CSV file. You can create a script that will automate the entire report, but you have to first collect all of the different data from the report, or all of the different variables of the report, for you to be able to automate your report. So data automation services. Now, you cannot start doing data automation services if you're, for instance, you don't understand what is Excel, you don't understand what is Python, you cannot do basic scripting. So what are the kind of things you could do? You can automate things like weekly sales report. You can do web scraping. What do I mean by web scraping? Now take for instance for Google. Now you see Google have a lot of businesses that they have on Google Map. Now Google Map have, if you go to Google Map now, you see a lot of businesses that are into tech, they're into logistics, there are supermarkets, there are pharmacies, there are whatever. People might need this data to do things like marketing. They might need this kind of data to be able to understand do competition analysis. They might need this data to do a lot of things. If you go to Fiverr, for instance, if you go to Freelancer, for instance, you see people offering different types of automation services. What do I call automation services? Instead of me to go to Google, for instance, and start picking each of those businesses and putting them in an Excel sheet, I can automate the process. So Python and Python libraries can do that for you. So I call it automating repetitive reporting tasks, or you are trying to automate things that you actually normally do in a very stepwise continuous manner. So you can do payroll calculation, you can automate that, you can do expense tracking, you can do customer segmentation report, you can do KPI refresh script. What do we mean by KPI refresh script? Take for instance, you have an Excel sheet, and you, for sales for instance, and you have a KPI that you want to meet. Let's say you want to know how many clients that we serve, you want to know how many products that we sold, you want to know what the cash revenue looks like. So those are like different key performance index. So if you want to refresh that, all you just need to do, because let's say every 3 hours or every day, this is going to change. So instead of you trying to do that all afresh anytime you have a new data, you can decide to do what? You can decide to just automate everything. And once you automate everything, it makes it very fast. So if you create a script for it, you just load that Excel sheet into, you load the Excel sheet into the script, and the script can automate the report. So that's what we call data automation services. So first thing I've talked about is building dashboard for SMEs, for companies, for NGOs. Another thing I've talked about now is data automation service. So if you want to go into data automation service, one thing you want to learn very well is Python, right? Or Power Automate, or let's say Excel macros. But the one that is going to be a lot easier for you is going to be Python. So Python can help you do a lot, because why? Python, take for instance Beautiful Soup. Python have a lot of libraries that can automate this process for you. The next thing I want to do, I'll talk about is data consulting for small businesses. So you can go into data consultation. So most companies might not want to pay a data analyst full time. So they may just need somebody to come in and work on their data, maybe on needs basis. Maybe let's say once in a month, and they pay a particular amount. So that's what you call data consultation. I'm going to tie this to the academics world, because as a data analyst, you can work in the business world, you can work in the academic world. In the business world, for companies that are actually generating a lot of data, they will always want to have somebody to like look at this data and interpret the data, make reports for it, and be able to help them make decisions. In the academic world, for people that are doing research, they also need data analysts to look at what they are working on and see how to actually make insight from that. We'll talk about that next. But let's talk about data consulting for small businesses. For small businesses, they will need to do strategy, they will need to do KPI tracking, they will need to do reporting. And most of the times, because if you're not a data analyst, for instance, you won't know what you need to do to be able to get the right data and be able to do the right analysis. So that's why most companies will need a data analyst. So because once somebody's data analyst, he's going to be able to tell the kind of data he should collect, and of course the kind of report he can generate and the kind of insight he can make. That's the advantage of a data analyst. So if you're not a data analyst, you can get into this and your focus can be on business consulting, data for businesses. Take for instance KPI for restaurants, data audit for a school, custom analytics for a gym. A lot of gyms will just have people coming into the gym. So you can go in and say, okay, I'm going to be your data analyst. I can be your data analyst. I'm going to look at your data, especially for very big gym. Now, for businesses that have a lot of data, that's when this is going to make a lot of sense. Because for those kind of businesses, they will have a lot of people trooping in, but they might not know what gives them the most money, what is taking a lot of money from them. So that's what the data analyst, the kind of insight he can make. Don't forget, becoming a data analyst, your job is not just to create dashboards. Your job is not just to create reports. Your job is to be able to, through the dashboards and the reports you are creating, to be able to tell and aid decision making. That's the job of a data analyst. It's not just to create reports, it's not just to create dashboards, it's not just to do charts and all of that. No, it's through doing all of these things, you should be able to help them make decisions, right? Now, data-driven pricing strategy for a service provider. Take for instance, for a service provider, they might want to say, I want to reduce my pricing, I want to increase my pricing. So how do they do that? How do they check patronage? Or they want to, for an NGO, you want to have donor insights. You want to know where are my main money coming from, then that can be able to help me now make decisions. Okay, so we've talked about building dashboard for companies. So this is one thing you can go into as a data analyst. At the very first time you're going to start, it might not be all rosy, but as a data analyst, I'm telling you 10 things that you can do, you can put in your portfolio. If you have a mini website, if you have a mini portfolio, you can put that as the things you can do, and you can now build up skills for that so that you can translate that into a money making machine. The very first one I said is building dashboard for companies. Second thing I said was offer data automation services. The next one I talked about is data consulting for small businesses. Now, another one I'm going to talk about is academic research support. Now, this is very, very common. So this is one of the easiest way to make money, because you have a lot of people that are into the academics. You have a lot of people, let's say students, undergraduates, lecturers, researchers. They want to make decisions, because one thing about academic is that the academic the academic world wants to help the industry world, wants to help the business world, and most of the times they don't know how to do that. And for the academic world to actually help the business world, one thing they want to do is to get the right data so that the business world can now make a decision on what they need to do or what best to do, right? So that's how it works. So for the academic world to be able to make such kind of decision, they need a data analyst. So you see a lot of people doing research, people doing final year projects, undergraduate work. They need to do collect data, they need to analyze data, they need to do questionnaire design, and they cannot do that because they don't have a data background. So you see people in the humanities, people in the arts, people in the medical field, people in what was it called? People in the sciences, people from all walks of life. And for instance, for you to finish up your undergraduate studies, depending on what faculty you are, or people that want that into postgraduate, no matter your faculty, most of the times you are going to take up a research, and your research is going to be involving data. Just like personally, having consulted for a lot of companies, I've also consulted for countless number of students. Day in, day out, a lot of students will want to conduct research. They want to take on data. They want to be able to make insights from that data. Who is going to help them do that? Who is going to support them? Who is going to guide them? So that's where you come in. So what are your tools, or what are the kind of things you're going to be doing? You're going to be doing support academic work for their data. You're going to be helping them with data cleaning. You're going to be helping them to collect the right data, because in data, if you don't collect the right data, then it's going to be difficult for you to actually make the right decision, right? Because most of the times they go collect data and the data is all wrong. So if the data is all wrong, what's going to mean is that they won't be able to make the best decision, right? They won't be able to make the best decision, right? So one thing you want to do is to ensure that you aid them to collect the right data, clean the data, analyze the data, interpret the data, visualize the data, and also report the data. That is what the job of a data analyst is going to be. So like I said, in the first instance, we talked about what's it called? We talked about building dashboard for companies. We talked about automating. We talked about data automation for small businesses and companies. Then we started talking about data consulting for small businesses. Aside data consulting for small business, now we're now talking about academic research support. Now, at times, it can involve you supporting, at times, it can involve you helping them understand, at times, it can involve you actually doing the work for pay, right? So, depending on where you come in. So, there's always a high demand for students, for researchers. Take, for instance, doing analysis for undergraduate work, maybe for their final year project, helping them process SPSS data, or helping them tell the kind of data they should collect, doing survey, doing questionnaire designing, visualizing the data that they have, doing hypothesis testing, doing literature-based kind of data extraction, something like a systematic research, or something like getting insights from data, or using AI tools to be able to grab data from different types of literature. So these are the kind of things you're going to be doing, doing regression, questionnaire design, and data structuring, because most of the times, if you don't do questionnaire design properly, you're going to get it all wrong. If you check my channel, I have a 3-part or a 2-part series where I did questionnaire design. So you can just search for it, questionnaire design, on my channel. You're going to see I did a complete training, a 2-part series for questionnaire design. And for some of my students that I've mentored on questionnaire design, I also went through the questionnaires they've created and provided insight on how they can make better questionnaire. Then the 5th one I'm going to be looking at is creating and selling courses or training. Now, a lot of people want to become data analysts, but they don't know how to become that, or they don't know how to grab actual hands-on skills. Now, this is where you can come in. For the fact that you can, one way to get better is by mentoring and training on that. So, a lot of tools, a lot of platforms, but at times people need individuals to actually mentor them over a period of time to become data analysts. So, you can do something on Excel, you can do something on Power BI, you can do something on SQL, you can do something on Python, you could do data storytelling, you can do something on dashboard design. So depending on the kind of, you could do something on SPSS, you could do something on questionnaire design, you could do something on using AI to automate the entire process. I've also done a training on that on my channel where I talked about how to use AI to go from objective design questionnaire design, data collection, the exact type of analysis you could run, and the way to interpret the analysis you've done. So I have done an exhaustive series on that so that you could use AI right from the very start of your research to the end of your research. You can automate everything. Take for instance, you're conducting a survey or you're conducting a research that have to do with tech jobs within Africa or tech jobs within Europe. Now, how do you know the kind of insights you can make? How do you know the kind of data you should collect? How do you know the kind of analysis you can run? How do you know the kind of questions you should ask when you're collecting that data? How do you know your target audience? How do you know your population size? So you could use that and run through the entire process and you're going to be done. So that's the fifth one. So the sixth one I'm going to talk about is data templates and digital products. Now, a lot of people want to get started, or let's say an Excel dashboard. Let's take for instance a business plan. If somebody is creating a business plan, most likely, or the person is creating a feasibility study report, most of the times he might need the services of a data analyst. That's why one other skill you can add to your plate as a data analyst is business analysis. Somehow they go hand in hand. If you check my channel, I did a comprehensive training on the CBAB IIBA business analysis training. So as a data analyst, you could go through that series, learn how to become a business analyst. Because if you become a business analyst, you become a better data analyst. They are similarities, they are different, they are completely different field, but they complement each other. So they are like complementary skill set that you can have as a data analyst. So what do I mean? Let me differentiate both of them. Now we're talking about selling data templates and digital products. Now, the job of a data analyst is actually to help businesses, individuals, C-level executives make insights from data that they have. Now, most of the times you're going to be interacting with businesses, with startup owners, with founders, with people that need to make decisions. That's the job of a data analyst. Now, if a data analyst does not understand what the C-level executives, what the business analysts, what they actually need, then it makes it difficult for a data analyst to be able to provide solutions. So that's how it works. So if you understand CBAP, that is CBAP, if you understand business analysis, it makes you a better data analyst. Because what you're going to be looking for when you are creating your reports, your dashboards, you're creating your questionnaire design, you are asking yourself, what is this guy going to be needing at the end of the day? Take for instance, we're talking about digital products and template. Take for instance, sales dashboards template, financial budgeting template, HR analytics Excel template, Power BI KPI pack, Google Sheet business tracker, social media performance dashboard, resume acquisition dashboard, CRM data entry template, academic data analysis template. These are the things that individuals or businesses will need. But the question now is that how do you know the kind of item, the kind of data that's going to be in there? So if you, like I said, if you want to become a better data analyst, please start. Even in some jobs, you are going to find out that if you go to LinkedIn, if you go to Jobberman, if you go to Indeed, if you go to LinkedIn, if you go to job sites generally, you will see that there are some job sites that will say data/business analyst. What do they mean? They mean that the data analyst they need to engage is that data analyst that also understands what kind of insights that the businesses we actually be looking at. Because the job of a business analyst is actually how to deliver change, right? How to deliver change. That's the summary of the role of a business analyst. We want to go from point A to point B. We want to cause change. We want to ensure that we deliver optimal service, right? We want to optimize most of our processes. We want to create solutions. That's the job of a business analyst, because he looks at something, he analyzes it, he now tells you a better way to do that to achieve a better result. That also goes in hand with project management. On my channel too, I have a complete series on project management. If you're into tech, you also want to understand that. That's why a lot of tech individuals don't succeed, because they don't understand how to deliver better projects. So all of these things go hand in hand. But let's just keep it simple. Data analyst is good. You have business analytics skill set. It will help you even in your job role, in your chances for a job. If you have business analytics skill set, it's going to boost your what's it called? It's going to boost your chances. So we said data templates and digital products, because this is what you're now going to create for businesses. So let me do a recap. The first thing we looked at is building dashboard for businesses. So if you just come into the you can also share and invite others. Today we are looking at how do you make money as a data analyst. You have a lot of data analysts, persons that know how to do a little bit of Excel, Power BI, dashboard. They could use Python. They don't know how to translate that into a skill set. And if you've not subscribed to the channel, do well to do that. I have over 30 playlists. In the past 3 years, I've made it a duty to provide a lot of resources on the channel. So if you've not subscribed, make sure you do that. And today we are actually looking at how do you make money as a data analyst. Subsequently, I'm going to be looking at over 10 top tech careers and how do you make money from each of them. Because it's not just about learning a tech skill, it's about how do I make sure that I make money from that skill. How do I make sure that either I am freelancing or I am doing full-time, I can actually make some cash. That is the goal. So the first thing we looked at today is building dashboard for companies. I've explained all of the things you could do. The next thing I talked about is data automation services. I explained data automation services. Instead of you to do things manually, you can automate it through Python, and you can actually provide these services for individuals and for businesses. The third thing I looked at today is data consulting for small businesses. A lot of small businesses. And one way you can do this, I'm going to talk about it at the end. How do you break into companies that might think they don't need your services? So stay tuned. At the end of the day, all of these areas, I'm going to tell you how do you get started from today, right? How do you get started from today? Because it's one thing to understand what to do, it's another thing to actually get started. I'm going to talk about that at the end when I've looked at the 11 items I want to talk about today. Now, the fourth thing I talked about is academic research support. I said this one, there's a high demand. Most of the times for me, for instance, I reject a lot of this because I don't have enough time. And I'm also looking forward to training and mentoring a lot of people that I can have as a team that can also deliver this. Because most data analysts don't understand what it means to deliver data analytics services for businesses, for academic, for research, for all of this kind of stuff. So because if you collect somebody's money and you don't deliver, of course, if it's academic, the person is going to fail. If it's businesses, then that report becomes useless, right? So this one, there's a huge demand for this. Then the fifth one I talked about is mentoring others, because if you have a skill, one way to get better at that skill is by mentoring others. And I do this a lot for most of my remote or physical students. Once I've trained you up to a week or two, most of the times you're going to train the other students. So it's not me being lazy, it's me trying to see if the skill set that you have actually gotten, you can transfer it. If I give you an Excel sheet, a data set of let's say 50,000 employee, and I tell you how to collect the data, clean the data, analyze the data, take care of missing data, do dashboard for it, create a report for it, I can bet you that while your class goes on, I'm going to make sure that you do this same thing or help another student to be able to do this. Because how frequently you can deliver stuff will tell how good you are. So you can actually start mentoring people. You could start doing it for free. You can start charging a small fee, then you can progressively start charging a premium. Like on the channel now, I have about 5 playlists. One is on Excel, Power BI, no, Excel, what's it called, SQL and Tableau. I have another one that talks about Python, Excel, SPSS and all of that. I have one on Google Data Practitioner. I just have so many playlists. I've provided a lot of free resources. So this is one thing you can also do. You could sell courses, you could provide training. Now, I also talked about the sixth one, selling data templates. And this is where I started talking about there's a nexus, there's a relationship, there's a connection between data analyst and business analyst. And I said, advise that if you're a data analyst or if you want to go into data analysis, one skill you can add to your plate is business analysis. Just like somebody that wants to go into front-end software development, something you want to do is back-end. Or if you don't want to go back-end, you can go into design, right? Also, somebody that is into, let's say, data analytics. If you don't want to go the business side, you can also go the AI route so that you start learning how to use a lot of AI tools to actually automate and make life easy for businesses you are consulting. Then the seventh one I'm going to talk about is going to be content creation. So content creation is going to be how do you create content that will provide value to people. So I'll list 10 things. The first one is create Excel tips on YouTube channel. Most of the times you want to do something on Excel and you are kind of rusty. You don't know how to do that. You just search on Excel, you just search on Google, you search on YouTube, you search on TikTok, you search just 1 minute video, 2 minutes video, 3 minutes video, 4 minutes video, right? You could create those content, and how do you make money from those content? Either maybe people pay for membership, people pay for affiliate, people pay for sponsorship, or people now contact you for services. Time without number, people have contacted me over the years and say, okay, I've seen your channel, I've seen all the amazing work you're doing, I've seen that, oh, you have more than 20, 30 trainings completely free. You don't have such kind of things so common. And because I am also using the exact training materials I use in my physical classes, what most people would do is that they will come on their channel and just provide something in a haphazard format or just like an abridged format and tell you, okay, if you want more, maybe go to Udemy. Udemy have written me severally and said, okay, come create your content and stuff on your channel. A company also reached me sometime last 2 weeks. They do that frequently. So when they come to the channel and say, okay, this person is a creator, they want to say, okay, how do we kind of let this person on board his content on our platform so that we can also actually make a revenue from that. So you could go on TikTok, you could go on LinkedIn, you could tell story. That's one way to also connect. Like I said at the end, I'm going to tell you how to ensure that people start knowing you for this particular field. Because if you don't tell people about what you do, nobody's going to know about what you do. So content creation is one thing you can also do. So you could do a podcast like this live I'm doing. You could do a live, you could do a podcast, you could create content, you could tell people about the things you do, you could do mini tutorials, you could do mini series. Like today now, I am telling people how to make money as a data analyst. By this night or by tomorrow, all the different skill sets or the different content I have on my channel, I'm going to tell people how to do that for cybersecurity, for different fields. So this is you creating content, right? Now, the eighth item I'm going to talk about is going to be part-time or contract remote data analyst role. Now, you have a lot of data analysis jobs that are remote that are not full-time. Just yesterday, 2 days ago, an ex-student of mine, he's traveling to the US. He ran some of our courses, our programs, got some certifications. So he said, okay, there's one job he got, but that since he's going to be traveling, not to US, to Canada, since he's going to be traveling, he wants us to post it in the alumni platform. For that, I asked for the details of the job. And so some jobs are physical, some jobs are remote, right? So you could explore part-time or remote jobs. So what are the kind of things you can be doing is you could become a part-time data analyst for an e-commerce store. This one, they won't need you every day, right? You could do a remote marketing data analyst. So what's a remote marketing data analyst going to do? A lot of companies do a lot of marketing. So all their marketing data, all their reports, take for instance, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Google ads, Facebook ads, all of those ads that they have, those ads, the report, you can export it. When you export it as a data analyst, you're able to make informed decision for them, right? That's the job of a data analyst. Now, this is very similar to the ninth one. The ninth one is data analytics for digital marketing agencies. So you can help agencies track their ads, conversions, ROI, that's return on investment. Because if you're using Google Ads, for instance, Google AdWords to do ads, the thing is going to be that you're going to see your report of your click-through rate, your CPM, a lot of metrics that you have when you're doing Google Ads. Another skill set that is important for a data analyst is understanding Google Analytics, right? So I've mentioned two additional things that you want to know if you're a data analyst is that you want to start learning business analysis, then you want to start learning Google Analytics, Facebook Analytics. You see these two things, a lot of companies, if a data analyst, they will need you to be able to understand these two things, because if the company run ads, or if it's an agency that run a lot of ads, these ad platforms, they have reports that can be exported in Excel sheet. They will need somebody to be able to analyze this particular data, make insights out of it, and help them make decisions. So that's why you see on some job platforms, they say data analyst needed. They start mentioning some of these additional things. So if you don't have them, you cannot be the right fit for the job. So doing A and B testing, result analysis. So what is A and B testing in marketing? So A and B is when you do an ad, same ad, maybe you are differing it with another ad design, or you are taking the ad at another time to see which ad works best. So once the company runs those two ads, at the end of the day, they can run this one for 1 week, this one for 1 week. They export all of the results. You cannot have that in Excel sheet or in a CSV file. So the kind of insight you are going to be making for them is going to say, okay, this company, I think if you use this particular link, you get more click-through rates. You get more people visit our website and patronize us. This ad design is doing better than this ad design. And you're going to see all of that from the data. So until you run charts and run dashboards for those CSV files, you're not going to make those kind of insights. So it's good that if a data analyst, you want to start looking things like Google, Facebook, analytics, and all of that, because your job can involve you to be able to start doing that. Things like SME performance dashboard. Google have it as search. It used to be Google Webmaster, it became Console, then now it's called Google Search Console. In Google Search Console, you can see that businesses can put their website there and they can track their traffic. They can track where their traffic is coming from. They can track the links they have on their website that are not doing well. So it's the job of a data analyst. Once they have that from the developers will export that. Once they export that, they give it to the data analyst. The data analyst can now work on that particular data, right? So you could do email marketing analytics, SEO, performance dashboard, conversion, funnel for e-commerce, and all of that. Then the 10th item I'm going to be looking at is going to be build an AI or a data tool, right? One thing you can go into is actually building an AI or a data tool. Okay, as I consider the 10th item and the 11th item, so you can go ahead and ask me questions if you have any. Right? Go ahead and ask me questions if you have any. If you've not subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that. Just 1 minute for that. If you have questions, if you've gone through the series so far, you can ask your questions. So we're going to be done in the next 2 minutes. Okay, don't forget to ask your questions. I'm going to pick up questions. Okay, let's go. So the 10th item I'm going to be looking at is going to be build AI and data tools. So you could go on and build a tool. Somebody is asking and said, okay, I'm a cybersecurity beginner. I want a place for internship. Okay, I will attend to these questions at the end of the call today. So the 10th item we're going to be looking at is build AI and data tools. So you could go into several items. You could say, okay, I want to build and that can be a micro SaaS or a proper SaaS tool. What do I call it? It can be a micro SaaS tool, or it can be a proper SaaS tool. Micro meaning like a mini, a small SaaS tool. Now, it can be an Excel to database converter. It can be an online CSV cleaner tool. CSV cleaner tool will mean that if you upload a CSV file into the platform, it's going to clean it up. Then it can be a budget tracking SaaS, it can be a KPI generator app, it can be an inventory analysis tool, it can be a simple forecasting tool, it can be a file merging tool. Let's say two Excel sheets, you want to merge them together. It can be data visualization web app, like you upload the CSV file and you can create the dashboard automatically, allowing you to maybe do some adjustments. It can be a resume analytics tool where you upload your resume and it can tell you things you could do for improvement. It can be a lead scoring tool for small businesses. So there are quite a lot of ideas. You have over 100. You can say, okay, scripts or small AI or data tools I can create as a data analyst. Just Google that. You're going to see quite a lot of things and you can start building that. The last thing also that you can do is to start freelancing. You could freelance, so you could provide your services freelance for people without a long-term commitment or with a short-time commitment. I think that's all about the series. So what you're going to do is to pick one. Don't try to do a lot of things. Just pick one or two of these items and start working towards them. You can give your timeline for 30 days to make sure that you have mastered everything about what you're choosing, so that when you start rendering the services, you can render a best service possible. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is how do you ensure that you can get in front of people? One thing you want to do is you want to build your portfolio. Most people are looking for jobs, most people are looking for freelance roles, but they don't have something somebody can look up to. So if you say you want to go into dashboard creation for small businesses or for individuals, you must be able to show us dashboards you've created. So you must have a portfolio. A portfolio is so important. You should have a portfolio that tells what you're doing. Number two is that you should be able to track your journey. That's why it's good that you have a Medium account, Medium. You should have a Medium account, or you should have a LinkedIn account that you're going to tell a story about your journey. That leads to credence. It gives credence to what you're doing. It's also a form of you having integrity, because you are saying, okay, this is what I have done over time. Then it allows people to be able to collaborate with you and for people to be able to give you tasks or jobs to do. I've seen instances where people just give me tasks to do or roles based on what they've seen in the past. So because people can actually trust somebody that have done something before than to trust somebody that is just saying, I can do stuff. There's a difference between experience and potential. There are two different things. So if you have experience, it's better off than when you have potential. So that's why, aside you creating a portfolio, you have to track your journey. So all of the dashboards you've done, you will go to medium.com and create a story, create a report about that. You are on LinkedIn, you could tell a story about all of the things you're doing. So that ensures that people know that you know what you're doing. The third thing I want to talk about is certification. You must have some certification. Certification validates the skill set that you have. Certification does not mean that you can do stuff. They only validate that you can do stuff. I have quite a lot of certifications in different areas. For the areas that I'm concerned about, I want to have certifications. I've seen instances where somebody will just say, okay, I need somebody to be able to do this. I also need a person to be certified in this. If you can do ABC, but you're not certified in ABC, then you are out of the game. So you want to make sure that you have certification, and you can start with the very free certifications. In data, in AI, in machine learning, you can start with the very free ones. You can start with the most affordable ones. Then you can build up in the next 2, 3, 4 months. You can start with paid certifications. We have our internships that we run every 3 months. We're starting this December. It's going to run December, January, February, March. So it's going to be like every quarter. So you can join that internship. You could see the link. I will drop the link for you joining the internship in the description after this live. Right? You could join an internship and get mentorship on how to ride on this career. So that will now give you a lot of direction. So the first thing I talked about is you must have a portfolio. Second thing is that you should document your journey. The third thing I talked about is you should have certification. There are two other things, and maybe I'll talk about them later on. So if you have questions, you can let me know. I've talked about 11 ways you can make money as a data analyst. The first one, building dashboards, automation services, data consulting, academic research, selling courses online, selling templates and digital products, content creation, part-time contract roles, then data analytics for digital marketing agencies, building AI tools, and I talked about freelancing. I also talked about 3 things you can do to make sure that you stand a better chance. Then the last thing I'm going to talk about is that most of the times when you are starting with companies, if you're a beginner, you can offer a pro bono, or you can offer what I call a testing the mic kind of first on service before you start charging. Now, if it doesn't work, that still serves as your portfolio. It's a win-win. Take for instance, you say you want to build dashboards for a company. You could say, okay, I'll offer my first 1 week free. If you like it, I can now continue working for you. So you get their data, you do the analysis, you present their dashboard, you tell the story behind that data. If they like it, you can now start consulting for them subsequently. If they feel, okay, they don't want to pay you or they don't like your services, that now adds up to your portfolio. So it's a win-win. Okay, if you have questions, don't forget to ask in the comment section. I'm going to be ending the live now. I have to hook up with something else. Thank you very much. See you in the next one. If you've not subscribed, make sure you do that. We're starting an internship. It's going to be data, machine learning, and AI. It's going to cover certifications in Google, certification in Cisco, and yes. And for interns, we're going to give them access to learning platform from Google and Cisco, because we are accredited partners. The fees, the details, and everything is going to be in the description of the link I'm going to be dropping. Thank you very much. If you've not subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that, and don't forget to share with others. Thank you, and see you in the next one.